Hello, this is Mark Smith with Family Tree Counseling Associates. I'm down in Louisville at my little writing retreat on the little lake. It's a very gray afternoon on a Saturday in October, and I have a topic that I think is going to be sort of interesting. The topic of the video is, why is my relationship so crazy? I'm going to start with a quote from Harville Hendrix, a man I respect a lot, who wrote a book called Getting the Love You Want, which I think is the best marriage counseling book ever written. And I share a lot of his beliefs about the nature of love and the nature of marriage and the nature of therapy. So he wrote in a book called Making Marriage Simple, he wrote, "Partnership is designed to resurface feelings from childhood. Most of the upset that gets triggered in us during our relationship is from past relationships, as in growing up. Yes, about 90% of the frustrations your partner has with you are really about their issues from their childhood." Harville Hendrix. So, seriously, have you ever asked yourself why your relationship, and really anybody you know really well, I think you know that everybody's crazy. You might know one couple or two from a distance who appear to be super solid and super happily married, but I assure you folks that even them in their darker moments are just crazy as the rest of us. So why is that? Why are people so off the charts crazy? And I gotta say, whenever I use the word crazy, I always get I get a couple people who email me and say, "Take me off your list." They're just morally indignant, I think, that I say such things. And I don't mean it in a bad way. I am one of those crazy people, and I think, like I said, everyone is. But when I use the word crazy, I almost always get some terse email from some bleeding heart social worker who thinks that I'm being insensitive and shaming by using the word crazy in reference to former clients and you, my YouTube watchers and my ebook readers. I do not mean it with disrespect, but come on now. Be real. Let's be real here. Every single person I know is just a little bit nuts. And many of them are especially nuts. And that, like I said, put me at the top of the list there. So it's the people who completely deny that they're crazy that I think are dangerously crazy. Those are dangerous people who think that either they've never had any psychological issues or somehow they worked them through and they're completely healed and they're healthier than the rest of us. So I don't believe the word crazy is derogatory in the least bit, because crazy is absolutely positively normal. I love watching the NFL. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I'm going to take most of the day off from writing, and I'm going to sit around and lay around and watch TV. At 4:30 p.m., my Cowboys are going to go into Seattle, and I'm looking forward to that. But during the week, I typically watch a couple of football shows. And frankly, I work all day seeing clients, working with issues, and it can be sort of dark. And then I come home and Every NFL show is about domestic violence and child abuse and drug abuse and drug testing and required therapy. And, and I watch it for touchdowns and, you know, offensive linemen dominating the other team and the Cowboys winning games. I don't watch it. All that stuff's important, but it just shows that people are crazy, and it's not like the Ray Rices and the Adrian Petersons of the world are the exceptions. Now maybe, hopefully they're the exception in that they carry it that far and they're abusive. I'm not saying that all the NFL players are abusive, but I am saying that they all have issues. Everybody's got issues. I don't know if you saw this several years ago, after winning the NBA championship, in which he was probably the most valuable player of the fourth quarter. I believe he was playing for the Lakers at that time. But several years ago, there was a basketball player by the name of Ron Artest. I'm from Indianapolis, so we from Indianapolis know Ron Artest leading our team into the Detroit stands and beating up fans many years ago. This guy has issues, but he wins the NBA championship, and then the reporter comes over and says, "Ron, how do you feel?" And he says, "I'd like to thank my psychiatrist." I think he said Dr. So-and-so. I don't think he said psychiatrist, but that's who it was. So many times somebody wins a Super Bowl and Kurt Warner or some Christian athlete will say, "I'd like to thank the Lord and give the glory to the Lord." And Ron Artest says he starts thanking his psychiatrist for holding him together and patching him up. There's a famous receiver in Chicago, Brandon Marshall, who has come out as being diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. And frankly, I doubt if he does have that. He seems like he's reactive, he's got issues, but I do think that he's been given a label that doesn't fit him. Just because you're reactive and you got a little rage and you got a little instability doesn't mean you have borderline personality disorder. But the guy's a sweet guy, and he's maturing, and I'm impressed with him. So, well, it's true that some folks are crazier than others. It is perfectly normal for couples married over 7 years to have any or all of the following issues. Let me just list these off, and this isn't all of them, folks. This is just the ones I can think of right now. Emotional distance. Almost every couple we work with, married 7, 10, 12, 15 years, there's emotional distance. Difficulty communication, check the box. Every one of them have difficulty communicating. Mountains of unresolved conflicts because they couldn't communicate very well. One partner being overly controlling. Depression. Computer or cell phone addiction. People have those cell phones, and I've got one somewhere here. Here's mine. They get their cell phone out and they play those little games. My fiance I got her an iPad mini, and I call it her foofing pad, because she went to just be in her own little world, playing all kinds Words with Friends and Candy Crush, and can be very addictive. Workaholism, something I tend to struggle with. Drug abuse, alcohol abuse, resentment, which is cancer to a relationship, to a life. Rage, anxiety. I tell you what, anxiety, I think, is probably the second most painful and difficult to treat emotion, next to abandonment issues, and it's a close second. Various mental illnesses like bipolar, obsessive compulsive disorder. Affairs are rampant in our culture, and it's not just a physical affair, an emotional affair can wreak havoc upon a marriage. Spending addiction. People can sit on their little fiddle pad and order from Amazon all day long, and there's just packages coming one after another. Another addiction is food addiction. Something I struggle with in my family background. Under-functioning, over-functioning, ADD, sexual addiction, couples who are separated, irrational jealousies, or what I would call abandonment issues, paranoia, defensiveness in communication, which I would call shame, suicidal thoughts, suicidal attempts, sleep disorders. When there's emotional distance, almost always, I hope these fruit flies don't show up on the video. When there's emotional distance, there's almost always sexual distance. So you got couples just never making love for months and months and years on end. Enmeshment or over-involvement with extended family members, massive debt, and like I said, folks, there's a lot more things on the list that people suffer from. So there's so many things that people can suffer from, both individually and in your marriage. So if your family of origin has none of the issues that I just mentioned, and you're saying that you've never had any of these individually or in your relationship, then you're about the only one on the planet who can make that claim. And frankly, my friend, you're lying to yourself. It just ain't true. There's somebody in your family that has a lot of that stuff. There are several people that do, and you got some of it too. And if you've never had that in a relationship, you've probably only been married for about 20 minutes. Let's talk to you when you've been married for 15 to 20 years, and we'll find out what's up then. So the reason that romantic love is so crazy is simply that it was designed by nature and arranged that we're only attracted to and fall in love with some very carefully disguised versions of the very same crazy people who hurt us and wounded us when they raised us when we were little kids. Mom and dad and whoever else was around. This is an immutable law of nature, and frankly I can prove it to any reasonably open-minded person. I'm not going to prove it on this video. I don't have that long, and I don't have your specific family background information. But if you make, it'll have to be 2 to 3 hour appointments, and we'll do an assessment, and I'll give you some feedback. I could probably do it in 2 sessions. The first one an hour, the second one an hour and a half, and where I do a very quick assessment, a family tree, study that, and then come out the next time and give you a lot of feedback. So, but it is an immutable law of nature. And I've had many skeptical people, but they get done with the feedback session, and about 80% of the people that I work with, whether they come in skeptical or not, become a believer that that's the nature of love. So our marriages are built upon the foundations of the very same dysfunctional patterns that have been handed down from generation to generation. So Mother Nature would like to heal you, and what marriage and love is about from the age about 35 to really on to 75 is we're sort of forced to work on facing off with our deepest emotional wounds. So this is the reason, if you're a very talented therapist, then business is booming. I'm really blessed to get calls and emails from people all over the world, and of course all over Indianapolis, and it's just an honor to meet with people and to give them the direction and the help that they need. Because the truth is, just about everyone will eventually desperately need the services of a really excellent, helpful therapist. To be quite honest with you, I wish that love wasn't based on our childhood wounds. That would certainly put me out of business as a therapist, but I'd go do something else. What it would do, it would reduce a lot of the pain in our society in the short run, but in the long run, I think there would actually be more pain, because pain and suffering give us an opportunity to be broken, to be humbled, to be stripped bare of ego, and it tears down psychological defenses, and that's when people are highly motivated to do work on themselves. So this Marry Your Issues business has made my own life pretty painful personally, but it is what it is, and healing childhood wounds, it's part of the deal in any relationship. If you've been in a relationship, you've been in therapy, even if you've not officially walked into a therapist's office. So this kind of romantic love that we all engage in, ultimately it is crazy, it's deeply painful, but it has an opportunity to be very proactive, very positive, and very healing. And having some craziness in your relationship is about as normal as breathing air. Everybody has it. Please don't feel like if your marriage is really broken that you're the only one, because you are far from the only one. Everybody struggles, and if they're not struggling, it's simply because they haven't been married long enough, or the bomb hasn't gone off yet, but there's a bomb coming. So I wish life wasn't so painful. Life can be really painful. I mean, not just the pain in relationship, but people can get ill, they can have trouble with their children, trouble with work, trouble with finances, trouble with health. But the suffering that you go through can transform you into a deeper, wiser, more balanced, more loving, more humble person who's a good candidate for being happily married. So if you haven't joined our YouTube channel, Family Tree Counseling, then do so. We are over 1,500 people that have joined our YouTube channel. We know we're just warming up, and we're over, I think it's 160,000 views. So people are hungry for direction, they're hungry for truth, and it's our joy to really put ourselves out there and spend the time sharing with you, so that even if you can't enjoy or afford to come to therapy, you can get some help and some direction. So I hope this has been helpful to you. Don't feel shamed if you're a little bit crazy, because we all are. And embrace the dysfunction in your relationship. Learn from it and let it remake you. Also, visit our website, which is familytreecounseling.com, where there are links to 6 books. If you have jealousy and reactivity, intensity in your relationship, you gotta get my book, Managing Abandonment Issues Through Recovery. I'm here writing a follow-up book that will be available as soon as I get it done. It's proving to be a little more time-consuming than I originally thought. But but it's called the Top 10 Power Tools to managing your abandonment issues. I think it's going to be very helpful. I also have a book on shame recovery that's excellent, and I have a book on affair recovery that'll really, I think, impact your life. There's also one on male counter-dependency, on this issue of marrying your issues in your relationship and marital issues and how nobody's a victim. And there's also a book on the basics of recovery. So thank you for watching today, and God bless you.